It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Wednesday episode of The Oil Stream. Dustin Nielsen and Tommy Gazzola with you. Tommy, does my new hoodie not look like the background of The Oil Stream?
Yeah, it does. That's actually pretty nice. Is that just straight up Puma? Like there's no logo?
Just straight up
like
Puma. That? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Just a little logo and that's it. Yeah, it's just a straight up Puma. Yeah, it's a nice little fit for the Oil Stream. I think it's a good color scheme.
Did you take advantage of the Leon Draisaitl and friends?
No, the 40% off or whatever. No, I didn't. I'm a horrible shopper. I'll be honest. I'm a horrible shopper. I usually don't sales shop. I kind of just see something I like and I'm like, hey, I think I want that. So yeah, it's I'm not a great shopper. My wife would tell you that. Yeah, I'm not a big one. I like to pop in, power shop the shit out of some place and get out of there. Yeah, that's pretty much.
I like online shopping. I know my size.
Yeah.
I don't even.
Oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to talk to anybody. Mm-hmm. Don't make me try things on. It's very frustrating. I get confused and flustered, and I cry. Yeah. It's painful.
I also hate returning things. I'd rather just keep the one and then just buy the same one again in a different size. It's just, I hate returning things, but luckily my wife likes returning things. So Snack 10 is already in on the live stream today. It says, JP episode. Is this the day Nielsen cries twice? Hashtag NS draft. Going back to the draft today, I was crying laughing at the draft today. Tommy, I have to say, buddy, an all-time performance on the Nielsen Show draft today, man. That was legendary. That was like some legendary Nielsen Show status, my man.
It was so fun. It was so fun. And Dusty, I saw the tweets coming in the last couple of days when you announced it, you and Eric announced it. I knew I had no chance. I'm getting slaughtered. I knew I was going to get slaughtered. People were expecting me to sewer my draft. And I ran with it. Okay. And Scott did a great job. His first draft. You and Eric were excellent. And I knew I just had to do something to make it half decent. And so I went with it, man.
You were getting hammered by people, and then you drop this one's for the haters, Shirley Temple. And I was just like, I don't even know what that means, but it's amazing. It's absolutely terrific.
Yeah, I knew. And honestly, all of those are pretty good. I think if you took away the names and you didn't listen, you're like, hey, I could live with all of that on everybody's list, but I know exactly what's going on. I knew it was going to happen, so we made it work.
It was awesome. Yeah. It was absolutely awesome. All right, so we've been teasing this for a few weeks now. We're calling it the Jesse Puljujarvi episode, and nothing says Jesse Puljujarvi like a Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen chicken sandwich. Get your delicious chicken sandwiches today. Now open down in Harvest Point, I believe. That's down on 50th Street and Ellerslie Road, and I'm sure there'll be a few more locations popping up right away as well. They've got some pretty good stuff planned for next NHL season as well, so you're going to want to be getting your chicken at Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. We'll get to your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day a little bit later on, but Tommy, that song, where they go, "This is the end." That song, that song. It's kind of what we're feeling, I think, here around the Big Fin. So bring us up to speed here, buddy. What do you think the absolute latest is here on Jesse Puljujarvi?
Okay, that sentiment's out there. Here's what I've been told. Here's my understanding. Here's what I know, and take it how you want to. I'll preface it by saying I like Jesse Puljujarvi. I like the person. I like the player. I think he's going to be a good player. What type of player he becomes, we shall see. Dusty, a couple of years ago, I remember telling you I was sitting at the Pint watching the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
As the Raptors were on the march to the championship. And I sat with Jesse, literally right beside me at the Pint with Rick and Alvin and the whole crew there. And then at halftime, him and I just started talking. He was asking me about TSN. I was asking him about what he wanted to do, about his hips and all that. And he was very open about everything. And I said, well, are you going to come back? Ken Holland's coming in. You got to have a new coach and Dave Tippett. And he said, no, fresh start. I need to go somewhere else. And he ended up going to Finland. And he had a good year there. He came back 2 years ago, played well. Seemed like the bridge had been the gap was removed and the bridge had been mended, all that stuff. It sounds like, and from what I understand, the topic of fresh start is coming up again. And it's not the Oilers just saying we're done with Jesse Puljujarvi. I think there's kind of a mutual understanding there that both sides are okay with moving on. That is the best way to describe what the situation is and what has been told to me about Jesse Puljujarvi. It's not, hey, they need him to play with skilled players. It just feels like it's time to move on, and everybody kind of agrees.
Basically, it's come down to he's not going to be a fit where they need him to be a fit here in Edmonton. And Jesse Puljujarvi is also along the lines of thinking it's time. He came back, he tried it for 2 more years, still not a great fit with this group. Might as well try something else. That's basically what this is. That's where it's at right now, right?
Yes, that's the best way to describe it. It's not the Oilers, and the Oilers are going to take heat, like regardless. Like there's going to be fans when the move happens. Because it's going to happen. I would be very surprised, we're going to get to it, if he ends up back in an Oilers uniform next season. Yeah. Crazier things have happened, but the Oilers as an organization are going to take heat. They're going to be called out for not handling him properly. You're going to see blame thrown around, right? You're going to see the analytics guys say he makes his line mates better. Here are the numbers. You're going to see people with the eye test saying, he has to work on his skills, but he still gets the job done. You're going to see all kinds of opinions. But at the end of the day, I think it's to the point where they're mutually going to agree to move on. So the Oilers will try to take advantage of that and say, hey, look what this player can do. And they would point to the numbers and say, this is what he's capable of. He's a big body. He can finish. He still got 36 points last year. He started out.
He's coming off his best year of his career right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I know he was garbage production-wise in the second half of the season, man, but he's coming off the best season of his career.
Yeah, but it's just kind of to the point where it's like they tried it, time to move on. And I think it's a mutual thing from both sides.
The one thing that pops up all the time is McDavid and Draisaitl don't like to play with him. Like a lot of people say that, they think it's, and I do think he started really well playing alongside Connor McDavid. Yep. Then he screwed up a couple of times. McDavid kind of reamed him out a little bit, and essentially he was never the same after that. So I understand why, he's not like I can see the level of frustration from Connor McDavid. Like if you're a guy like Connor McDavid and you've got a guy who bobbles the puck every once in a while, even if he keeps it in the offensive zone quite a bit of the time when he's on the ice, if you can't get a pass on your stick and things like that, I can see why that would extremely frustrate you. How much of this do you think, Tommy, is just not a good fit as a guy with this group of guys? Yeah,
that's part of it. And I've heard rumblings like he's not disliked. So to people saying, oh, the guys don't like him, it's not like he's disliked. You have people that you work with, people that you went to school with, you play on teams that just are kind of like the odd man out, right? Like they just are. It's not for a lack of trying or anything like that. They just don't fit in. And it sounds like that is the case to some extent. Is it extreme? Probably not. Is it as bad as people think? Probably not. But
man has come back and play for 2 more years.
Yeah. Right. I've heard even the closest guys on the team to him were just like, we tried, but it's got to be a 2-way street, and he doesn't want to be as engaged or fit in or run with everybody, be on the same page, however you want to describe it. So, that plays into it, Dusty. And I've heard that's a thing. Is it an issue? Is it a red flag? Red flag, yeah. Is it an issue? I don't know if it's like to the point where they're making big deals.
Like the room's not going to be better because he's gone. Like it's not at that level, right? Like that's not what it is.
Of course not. Yeah. No, he's a nice kid. Like he's a nice guy. He smiles. He licks his boogers with his tongue. Like everybody, he's endearing, right? But it's just he's not one of the boys kind of thing.
Okay, so there's a few different ways to go here. Like they could have gone their separate ways 3 years ago. He went back to Finland. The others were patient. They didn't trade him. His value is probably at an all-time low at that point. You said it. He played well in Finland, comes back over here. He's got 2 more years under his belt. I said it earlier. He's coming off his best year in the National Hockey League. He produced at an 18-goal, 45-point pace, which I think a lot of people would be very happy with. And that is with tailing off at the second half of the season. Had a nice start. So, Tommy, how much have both sides helped the situation, do you think, by coming back together, getting a couple years in the National Hockey League under his belt, and actually making him a tradable asset, I would think, right now?
That's a good way to describe it, too. It's because 2 years ago, you could have got rid of him for nothing, right? Like, you would have just given him away. Some team would have picked him up. Might have worked. Now he is an asset. Now there is tape of him playing in the NHL. Now scouts have watched him firsthand in person and understand more of Jesse Puljujarvi, the player, at 23, 24 years old. So it's a good thing that they mended that fence and fixed things and made it work. And Dusty, he made some good plays. He had some good nights. He scored some important goals. He was physical at times. He started at times to realize he's a big body and he can assert himself. So there is good there. There is good there. And the organization, Ken Holland, Dave Tippett at the time, the staff getting him to come back from Finland and giving the Oilers another chance was a good thing. And there's fans that love him. There's fans that are frustrated with him in the playoffs. I saw it on the post-game show. People didn't like the way he was performing. That's understandable. But like what they were able to do with this terrible situation where a guy wanted to walk away from the team a couple of years ago and bring him back and show that he is an NHL player and could flip him and turn him into another asset for the organization that benefits them, that's overall a good thing, I think.
Do you think it's possible that he gets used as a sweetener to move Kassian? Because, you know, I know you had in the past, like the Oilers are expecting a little bit of backlash when they eventually move him, which we are expecting to happen at some point here, probably within the next month, with a lot of movement happening around the National Hockey League. But you're not in a situation where you're like, hey, take Kassian and we'll give you Puljujarvi. Like you've got to get something back of significance in addition to just $3.2 million in Kassian cap space, don't you? Like, I feel like you bring him back for 2 years, coming off a pretty decent year. You can't just give him away to get rid of your mistake in Zach Kassian. That's an awful, awful asset management move.
Fair. But what if the package coming back requires a Puljujarvi and he's the centerpiece type of thing and Kassian's the actual throw-in? Like that could play out too. And that's okay to think.
Yeah, I mean, if they're getting a warm body back, like you can't give him away for nothing just to move Kassian.
No. Yeah. And that's fair. But like, could they be in the same deal for something? Yeah, they could be. Like, why would you eliminate possibilities and options because you don't want to just give it has to be the right deal. So they could be together in a package. They could be separate. But if you're going to trade Jesse Puljujarvi, which might be happening, you do want something back. I don't know if it's a up-and-coming prospect. I don't know if it's a player that's a young player. I'm not sure what their target is. I didn't go that deep into my questioning.
Yeah.
I just know that it sounds like they're ready to move on. And if it ends up being as part of a package, you hope that you're getting something that has impact immediately on the roster instead of just a pick, right? Like you don't want, we're not in the time of this organization where they just want to get picks. Although we'll talk about the draft at a different point where they're going to want picks.
Yeah, they're going to need some picks here at some point. I don't know if a trade can't get done. Is there any way they bring him back on another 1-year deal at a pretty reasonable price? And I mean, if you can get him for $2 million and he scores 15 goals and has 40 points for you next year, I mean, I don't think that's not the end of the world. Is there any chance, do you think that happens, or is this pretty much a foregone conclusion?
I think there's a very low chance that happens, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. I'm pretty sure that there is a team that would take him and say, hey, we feel like we know how he fits best and can optimize him in our lineup. I'm sure out of the other 31 teams, there's a few that are thinking that. If worse comes to worse, they can't find the right deal. Yeah, sure. They could make it work for one more year and then try to move on maybe at the deadline or next season, whatever. I think that is a very slim possibility, but sure, it could happen.
Do you think this story plays out any differently if he doesn't come over until he's 21 years old, like other Finnish players have in the past?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they rushed him.
I'm just curious, he was here for a couple of years, then he went back, then he came back. If he didn't come over the first time, and obviously there was some push, he wanted to play, Chiarelli wanted to see him play, and coach maybe was against it, and Todd McClellan, so it was not an ideal situation from the very beginning. But do you think it might have worked out differently if he waited a couple of years to come over, or they waited to bring him over?
Yeah, he could mature, he could grow up, he could become a young man instead of just a kid. I know that there's Jesse believes in himself. He's a confident guy, and there's a stubbornness. And when you're good at something, you have belief in yourself and you want to assert yourself and do your thing. I know when he came over, he wanted to make the team, and he made the team. It didn't go particularly great. I know he scored in that first game that he ever played against Calgary, but I think holding him back for a couple of years would have been beneficial. I believe Gregor when Gregor says that he needs a skills coach. I think that would benefit him big time, or spending a summer with a guy like Connor McDavid. I think that would go a long way in helping Jesse Puljujarvi develop as a player. And Dusty, he started playing and was thrown into the lineup at a time when we were just starting to say, it's time to stop putting the first round pick.
Yeah. He was kind of the last guy that got thrown in that role, right?
Yamamoto too, the next year. Yamo started the year with the Oilers, right? So they kind of went against.
Did he start right after his draft year too?
For the next 2 years, he made the team. They went against everything they were saying. I remember doing those interviews with Peter Chiarelli and Stu McGregor, Bob Green, and you talk to anybody, Todd McClellan at the time, and they would say, we don't need young guys, and let them simmer, let them grow. And what happened? Those guys made the team out of camp when they probably shouldn't have. And good for them for doing so, because they had good preseasons. They look good. That's great for them, but they shouldn't have been there.
As you know, Tommy, I've been very supportive of Jesse Puljujarvi when he was, since the moment they got him. And I will sit here today on this episode and say I do think it is a mistake that maybe it's the way that they did bring him along in the early going, which led to some obvious frustration between the two sides.
Yeah.
And even this year, I know he had a bad second half, but he still, everybody in the town's lock Yamamoto up. Puljujarvi had a horrible second half and still outproduced him from a points per game perspective, which is kind of, with pretty much no power play time on either unit after Jay Woodcroft took off. So I think there's a player there. But I do, I'm finally at the point where I do think the Oilers need to move on from him. But I think more importantly, for the guy that I've backed for a long time, he needs a fresh start somewhere else. That's just exactly what happens. Because he could play well for a few games. I'll put him back up with McDavid. He'll go offside. McDavid will give him a look, and his confidence will go to shit again. Which, McDavid can give a lot of guys a look, and they'll be just fine. But he just hasn't been able to handle that. You saw it on the bench. You've seen it, looks on the ice. It's an uncomfortable situation, I think, for this guy to continue to stay here. I don't know how much he follows along with, certain people saying, they'd rather play with Yamamoto. They don't want to play with him. And that would suck if you're in that situation. So I do think it's time for a fresh start for both sides involved. The Oilers, it'll be very interested to see what they do on the right side. Because, if you're going to try to move on from Cassian, you're going to move on from Puljujarvi, you'll have to bring somebody else in. And Kyler Yamamoto will simply have to get better. You're going to need Kyler Yamamoto to continue to improve. And I think one of the questions there is, how much more do you think Kyler Yamamoto can do on the right side, Tommy?
I think he can be a 50-point guy. He got to 40
this year. He was a 40-point guy this year, yeah.
How many chances did he blow in the first half of the season? It's incredible watching him and Puljujarvi. If one guy's going, the other one's not. Hot and cold. Neither one of them was ever hot at the same time, which is too bad because it creates a hole on the right side, right? You got one guy going, you're trying to get the other guy going. Well, the other guy starts going and the other guy tapers off. It's just this weird seesaw that has occurred with those guys over the last couple of years. So Yamamoto does need to get better. I think Yamamoto expects to get better. I think Yamamoto expects to capitalize on his opportunities more.
That's pretty much what it is. Like, I don't think Yamamoto's going to be able to push the play any more than he has, but it basically comes down, I think, to finishing, because he gets a ton of opportunities. He scored 20 goals this year. Yeah. If he becomes a 25-goal guy on the right side with Kyler Yamamoto, then maybe the right side will be okay, assuming they have to bring somebody in on some sort of wing, and because you can move Hyman over as well, right? So
true. I mean,
yeah.
That's why I keep saying there's so many moving parts to this offseason. And it starts with, like we said the other day on Monday, it starts with Keith and Smith making their decisions so you know how much money you're dealing with. And then that either gives you some leverage in terms of financial and cap space, or it takes away some. So it's a very interesting couple of weeks that are coming up. And then, I mean, I was talking about Gregor and we talked about Barrie. It's like, yeah, they could trade Barrie. They could trade him. They might trade him. But if they figure out what's happening with these few things on the checklist first, they might not have to trade Barrie, or they could take their time and find the right trade for Barrie instead of putting themselves into a rush and maybe other teams taking advantage of them. It's interesting. It really is a very, very different offseason for this group, coming off a very good season.
Exciting times in the offseason. I am fascinated because, I mean, I like Jesse Puljujarvi, but I love trades. Like, I can't wait to see what type of deal ends up happening here, and I cannot wait to roast Ken Holland when he gives them away for nothing. It's going to be hilarious. All right, let's get to your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day, brought to you by our friend Ken Morrison. Visit his website at kenrmorrison.com. If you're buying or selling, he's your guy, 780-993-4815. Tommy Gazzola, what is the Ken Morrison Remax question of the day?
Well, we're sticking with the theme, Puljujarvi episode. Dusty Nielsen, where will Jesse Puljujarvi be playing in 2022, 2023?
Can I say where I'd like to see him play?
Yes.
I'd like to see him play for the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, I honestly think that, and a Puljujarvi-Barrie combo, I think would be very valuable to the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, depending on what happens with Tony DeAngelo, he's an RFA coming off a really nice year. I mean, is there something that they can do there? But if not, you've got Ian Cole, who's a UFA, Brendan Smith's a UFA, Bear's an RFA, and they don't even want him back. And then Tony DeAngelo is an RFA as well. So when you see Slavin and Brady Shea and Brett Pesce and Jalen Chatfield, I mean, Tyson Barrie would be a pretty decent pickup for the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Carolina Hurricanes are obviously a very possession-driven team, and whether you like Jesse Puljujarvi and you think he's soft or he bobbles the puck or not, he pushes possession almost to a level where you don't understand how he does it. And they also have Sebastian Aho, Teuvo Teravainen, and Kotkaniemi there. So he would fit, I think he would fit in with that group very well. So to me, it makes a ton of sense. I hope he lands in Carolina and has an opportunity to play with some of those guys who will help him fit in a little bit easier. And I think a Barrie, like, I think you get a return there for those two guys from Carolina. So I'm going to say I'd like to see him play in Carolina. I have no idea where he ends up playing, but I think it'd be a nice landing spot for him.
Yeah, I don't know where he would end up. I've heard, a few people throwing some rumors and whispers around, and I, piques my interest. But I have a feeling he ends up in the Eastern Conference somehow. And just in my mind, I'm like, where would he be? Where would it be? Maybe Montreal would be open to him. And there's a lot of movement going on there with their new management team. So, maybe there's a fit with the Habs, and everybody's apparently up for grabs over in Montreal to a certain extent. And so if they're willing to deal and they like Jesse Puljujarvi,
they could use a Barrie type too, technically. I mean, if you wanted to, Puljujarvi and Barrie for Josh Anderson, so he can come in and score 20 goals as well. I think that'd be pretty big. That'd be pretty sweet. You do realize that if Jesse Puljujarvi becomes a Montreal Canadian, buddy, that's even going to take my infatuation to another level, right? Like,
yes.
God.
Oh, I know. You would do Tales of the North and mention him regardless of the Habs are playing that night or not.
The Habs taking Ken Holland to the cleaners on a Puljujarvi trade would be the most awkward 4 hours of morning radio this city has ever seen in their entire life. That would be
again.
Yeah, that would be something else. Well, we'll see how it plays out. It's been an interesting ride. Let's say that. There's definitely been some exciting moments for Jesse Puljujarvi and the Edmonton Oilers. I think overall fact that they were able to work it out and he's able to come back for a couple of years. I think both sides should be given credit for that. But I also think that the Oilers are likely ready to move on. And if Jesse Puljujarvi is ready to move on, I totally understand why. So that's just another moving piece in this very interesting offseason for Ken Holland, man.
We didn't get tears from you today, and I think we handled it with the right amount of respect that it deserved. It's a tough, touchy subject around here, and both sides ready to move on is the best way to describe it.
All right. Well, we'll see how it plays out. And I can't wait for Jesse Puljujarvi trade reaction episode. That's going to be absolutely amazing. Tommy, enjoy the rest of your day, buddy. And maybe we'll sneak in a Canada Day episode early. We've got some other stuff going on there. I got to fly out to Regina like around noon, but we might be able to sneak something in there Friday morning if you got nothing on the go. So
no, I don't. I have
do that as well,
obviously.
All right, that is the Jesse Puljujarvi episode brought to you by Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. If you've been very excited about moving on from him, go get yourself some chicken nuggets. If you're sad about it, go get yourself some chicken nuggets as well. And we will talk to you later in the week. See you later, buddy.
See you, Dusty.